Welcome to the Brand Sweat and Tears podcast. I'm your host, Dave Oldham. On this podcast, I interview the coolest consumer product creators. We dive into why they built their product and what their brand stands for. We talk about the crazy things they had to do to bring their idea to life and how hard it is to be a product creator. And we discuss the mental and emotional roller coaster of building a successful business. Let's get to it. This episode was brought to you by Awesome, AWSM. Awesome makes it possible for consumer brands to reward and motivate their customers with equity ownership. People that have even small amounts of ownership in a brand spend twice as much money per year, are loyal 3 times longer, and are twice as likely to refer their friends and family. Learn more at awesome.com, AWSM.com. All right, welcome everybody. I'm excited today to have my guest, Will Nitze, who is the CEO and founder of IQBar. And it was kind of funny how we just barely recently met. And I think, was it on LinkedIn or was it on Twitter? I can't remember, Will, where you posted to shoot your shot or call your shot. It was on LinkedIn. Will posted, said, call your shot for 2024. And he posted some cool stuff about the goals that he has for IQBar. And then a bunch of other people posted. And in kind of an audacious moment, I posted a comment like, I'm calling my shot. I'm going to get Will on my podcast as a guest. And he was very kind to respond quickly and say, yeah, happy to do it. Happy to come on the podcast. So I'm excited to have Will as a guest. And I want to start out, maybe first start out kind of where we're at today. Like, tell us where IQBar is currently. And then we'll kind of jump back in history and kind of go through your sort of entrepreneur journey and how we got here.
Yeah, so we're a brain and body nutrition company. We make plant protein bars, hydration mixes, and instant coffees, mushroom coffees. We're in about 10,000 locations. We're also, actually, most of the company is online. Most of our sales are e-commerce sales. And so we're on Amazon, Walmart.com, our website, IQBar.com, and a few other places. So yeah, that's where we're at.
Nice. So how many total like SKUs do you guys have now?
I mean, total SKUs, probably 50, but that's because we have a variety of variety packs and boxes for retail shelves and certain envelopes for e-commerce. And so SKU-wise, there's a lot. Flavors, there's eight bar flavors, 6 hydration flavors, and then 4 coffee flavors.
And people can buy you in all those retail locations as well as just buy direct from you guys online. You guys ship just in the U.S. or you ship globally?
No, we ship globally. It's a pain to ship outside the U.S., but we do it. So yeah, but I mean, 98% of our business is U.S.
So IQBar, and you guys have officially been going or been in business for how long now?
About about 6 years and change.
Okay. All right. So now I want to jump back in history then. So even way before the 6 years, as an entrepreneur, where did your story begin? I mean, have you been an entrepreneur since you were a kid? Is this your first entrepreneurial kind of effort, or give me some background on kind of how you became a creator and entrepreneur and where that all started?
Yeah, I mean, I was not, I don't think, the lemonade stand kid per se. Like I wouldn't say I was like born an entrepreneur. I was definitely obsessive about things and still am. So I definitely have a obsessive and addictive personality. So what the thing I was interested in at any given moment in time was like the only thing I was interested in. So when I was growing up, that was sports predominantly, soccer in particular. But for a little while there, it was chess. I played competitive chess. And then it was soccer again in high school. And then it was a variety of things in college. But it wasn't, that thing wasn't actually entrepreneurship until really late college. I got really interested in entrepreneurship. I was always interested in business. And just like everyone else, the rise of companies like Facebook and things getting started out of dorm rooms, when that became cool, I too thought it was cool, and I was like, huh, maybe I can do something like that. Um, but so yeah, I don't know, maybe I was like 22, 23 when I really got into it. And then I took a job outside of, my first job outside of college. I was not an entrepreneur. I was working for a software company, and I learned what it's like to work for a company, not actually a big company. It was like maybe 200 people, but I learned what it was like to have a boss and a boss's boss, um, and that only got me more fired up and interested in entrepreneurship, because I was like, I don't know if I can do this for 40 years. So yeah, that was the chronology of it.
Didn't want to be in the matrix forever, I guess, huh?
Yeah, yeah, you could say that, but I'm glad that I got that experience, because now, like, it's important to be able to see both sides of the coin. And it's not that, I mean, I work harder and probably have more exasperation on the entrepreneurial side, so it's not like it's easier. It's just, more free, more, you control your destiny more. There's less. So it's the grass is always greener, but I'm generally not a fan of telling people to go start a company without having first worked for a much bigger company.
Experience, I guess.
Totally, yeah. And then if your startup goes well, you become a company, right? So now you're hiring people who are employees in your company. You sort of become that thing that you used to not love.
Yeah.
And as your startup scales, right, what it means to have a startup or be an entrepreneur fundamentally changes a lot. Even year to year changes a lot.
So how many employees do you guys have now?
Still very, very small. We have 6 people, office employees, and then we have 5 folks in our warehouse. We manage and run our own warehouse in Wisconsin. But in terms of like office employees, people, doing ops, marketing, sales, etc., 6 people.
Wow. So that's actually super impressive that you've got such a small crew, but have been able to achieve kind of the scale and the revenues that you guys have achieved so far. That's actually really impressive. So kudos to that. You guys are doing something right. But going back to the kind of working at this job, you thought, okay, well, it's cool. Maybe I could be an entrepreneur. Like, where did that actually start to become real? And what were some of the first steps that you took? Did you have like a notebook full of ideas and 50 different things, or did you kind of have one specific idea that you wanted to pursue? How did that get started?
I was relatively agnostic. I knew I wanted to own the product tip to tail. I wanted to make it myself, which crossed off a lot of ideas. So it wasn't going to be a tech company because I was not tech savvy. I mean, I was tech savvy. I'm not a coder. And it never appealed to me, the idea of outsourcing the creation of your product to, whatever, coders in Eastern Europe or something like that. I didn't want to do. I'm too much of a control freak for that. And so I was like, all right, I need to make it. So what can I make? And, ideally, what can I make literally here in my apartment? And that kind of narrows it down to like food and beverage, honestly. So I was like, all right. And then, by the way, as I was running through this thought process, there was a series of other things happening in my life. I was having cognitive issues that were diet related. Like I was having a lot of headaches and mental fatigue. And then I switched up my diet and I experienced this incredible, revitalization, and felt better, had more energy, got less tired. And so those two things happening in parallel were a happy coincidence, because I was like, all right, I'm solving all these problems personally through diet, and I want to make a product and a company, and that thing needs to be something I can make in my apartment. So I was like, all right, I'm going to make a food product. And actually, there's even a third vector where I was super interested in the brain because of the stuff I had studied in college. I studied psych and neuroscience, among other things, in college, and was super interested in the brain and how it works and how it fails and how do you optimize it. And I didn't really know how to map that to a profession, but I knew that I was really interested in that. So even that then sort of got pulled into this, the gears turning in my head at that point in time. And anyway, the net out of like all of that, I was like, all right, I'm going to make brain food. That was the idea. No one had done it. You know, that kind of a thing is something I would want because I'm always on the go and I want something ready to eat. And I just couldn't really figure out a reason not to do it. So then it was like, all right, where do you even start? And, basically, because I didn't know anyone who had started a product company. So I found like 5 people had started consumer goods companies in Boston. I called all of them and I met with all of them and I picked their brains for an hour and then just sort of triangulated a early roadmap. Hey, here's how I'm going to incorporate. Here's what my gross margin needs to be. One guy hooked me up with the manufacturer. That was our first manufacturer. And so that was how I started. And then on the actual, sales side, we started with a Kickstarter. So that was how we started selling our first units and got our first revenue.
So how did you do the Kickstarter? Were you, did you just do like a video of you talking, or how did you kind of paint the picture of like, hey, this is what the product is going to look like, this is what it's going to do? And did you have any like samples that you made in your kitchen or something, or how did you do that?
Yeah, well, we linked up with a co-packer and they were like, all right, our minimum's 30,000 bars, or I think it was. And we were able to make prototypes. So we were able to do a test run, test the packaging and everything. And I think we got a couple thousand units from that. And so that was the product that we showed with the Kickstarter. And we had kind of a goofy video. I filmed it in my old office at my job before I left to do this. I was still tight with the CEO, and I was like, hey, can I come in on a Saturday and film this thing in your office? He's like, sure. So total bootstrappy type stuff. And and yeah, just pre-sold. Ultimately, it was $90,000 of product we sold between Kickstarter and Indiegogo. And then we were like, oh, crap, now we got to go make it. And so then we produced whatever it was, 40,000 units.
Well, so that's super interesting right there, is like the timing of those things, that sequence. You had a manufacturer that was willing to get started to get you those kind of sample units. Did you have to put like a big down payment on that or prepay anything? Or were they like willing, like you signed something, they made some of those samples, then you were able to do the video to like pre-sell them, and then once you pre-sold them, then you said, go, let's go, and like produce the actual full like 30,000 or 40,000 that you needed?
Yeah. Basically how you laid it out. I mean, we didn't have to put a down payment on any, like, we did the Kickstarter, we got the money from the Kickstarter, and then we were like, all right, let's do it. We want to produce XYZ amount of product, and then they ordered all the raw ingredients and booked the line time. And that's the crazy thing about Kickstarter. We didn't deliver on all those orders for like 6 months. We thought it would be quicker, but it took a while.
Yeah.
So I think we started fulfilling orders in like June. We did it in January 2018, and we fulfilled orders in June, which is just the amazing thing about Kickstarter. It's like who are these people who will pre-order and back you, and then they're cool with it coming 6 months later. But there's a zillion people like
just
that.
Waiting forever. Yeah, I've supported a bunch of Kickstarter campaigns, and it's funny if you think about, why am I willing to do that? I mean, part of it is because I want to support startups and stuff, but obviously I'm only supporting the things that I actually really believe in, or a product that I actually want. But it is interesting that the psychology, that just that whole process kind of sets in people's minds that like, okay, you might not actually get the product for 6 months to a year. In fact, one of the ones that I supported, it was like 18 months before I actually got the product. I almost forgot that I'd even done that Kickstarter by the time the product started coming out. So it is kind of cool that it buys you that kind of mental patience. It's kind of pre-built in. People know that it's going to like take a while, I guess.
It's a good way to start a company. I mean, because those are real sales. And then we use those sales to justify a valuation to go raise money from angel investors. I think a common misconception is like, oh, you do the Kickstarter, now you can fund your business. And it's really not the case in consumer goods. Mostly it's just a validation of your idea and its pre-sales. And then, you're still going to need more money than that, especially at first. Your gross margin is the lowest it'll ever be, right? So you fulfilling all those units, it's, first of all, you're going to make a bunch of mistakes, you're going to fulfill the wrong thing, and your gross margin sucks, and yada, yada. So more or less, you break even on that. But you validated the idea. 2,000 plus people said, I want this thing. That suggests, that reduces risk for investors, and then it allows you to go, raise a little bit of money.
Yeah, it's a really cool process. So I want to clarify one thing. So the guys who built the manufacturing they built those, the first 1,000 or so samples that you were able to use for the Kickstarter. Did you have to pay any money for that, or was it just kind of a letter of intent that you were going to pay later, or like a contract with delayed payments or something?
The first units, no, it cost money. I mean, I had raised like 20 grand or something from these random angel investors, just to get even through the Kickstarter. So we had to, it was 5 grand to make a couple thousand samples. So there's ticky-tacky costs along the way. And I spent my own money, my own savings, actually.
Yeah.
So, no, it doesn't cost $0 to get there, but it's also it's not crazy. The really big cost comes when you actually have to make the 30, 40,000 units.
So you could get it going, and there were people that bought into the idea basically just on the idea at some point then. So the early angels were, we believe in you as a founder. We like this idea. We'll give you a little bit of money so that you could get enough to kind of do that, like the first samples and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so get the Kickstarter. It basically lets you break even. Then you go raise money from some investors, because now you've kind of validated that there's this product market fit, which Kickstarter is really kind of great for that. If people are willing to prepay and wait, then okay, there's something to this product that I've got here. So once they actually started getting the product and tasting it, did people instantly love it, or what was kind of the feedback for those early customers that started getting it, and what kind of direction did that push you as far as producing the next round of products?
Yeah, I was to make a lot of people loved it, and then we also got a lot of feedback. So this is something I don't know if people know or they don't know, but you're never done iterating your product. You're never done. Even today, we make tiny micro tweaks, and so, but in the early days, you can make substantial tweaks. So we had no protein in the first products, and a lot of people were like, "Hey, this would be cool if it was brain and body, bars." We're like, "Huh? Can we add in whatever pea protein, say, and not lose anything?" And the answer is yes. So we made that tweak. Sweetness. We want more or less sweetness. We want it dries out. We want it to be moisture. Yada yada yada. And so, yeah, I mean, you get a ton of early feedback. And the beauty of being small and nimble is you can just make giant changes, and it doesn't really matter. It's a small enough company and customer base where, you can take big swings, and you might as well, right? And just iterate yourself into product market fit. Okay, we got 30% fewer complaints, and then we got another 50% fewer after that iteration, until you're just damn, okay, pretty much everyone likes this. You're never going to get 100% of people to like your product. I mean, it's just, especially when you start selling millions of units, it's there's no way to not get 500 complaints. It's just that it's a law of big numbers. But yeah, you just kind of always want to be cinching down that complaints per 1,000 order number.
Yeah, and taking the most common ones, right? You probably get a lot of weird random stuff, but if there's a pattern in there, then you're it's pretty clear, okay, here's the biggest issues
If you
that
hear
you
the
need to
same
solve.
thing 100 times, it's like, okay, that's a thing. We should probably address that.
Yeah. So when you launched in the Kickstarter, did you just do like one flavor of one bar, or did you come out with like a couple of different flavor options?
3 flavors, just because you want enough variety. 3 is like a magic number. It's just everyone likes 3. Odds that there isn't something for most people out of 3 different flavor profiles is pretty low. And then you can do like a variety pack. So yeah, we started with 3.
So how did you decide what 3 flavors? Did you do tons of different like flavor tests and get friends and family or people off the street to kind of dial in like what the 3 best options were, or did you just say like, hey, this is what we think is going to be the right one, and just see how it goes? Like, how did you approach that?
So one of the brain nutrients we optimized for is flavonoids, and we were like, all right, what's rich in that? Cocoa beans, matcha, blueberries, and we're like, all right, let's a chocolate bar, a blueberry bar, and then like a matcha bar. The matcha is like kind of funky. We'll have 2 mainstream and one kind of different, like super differentiated and funky. But all of them will you're not just picking the flavor just cause it's because of this compound that we're trying to optimize around. But then also it kind of maps to mainstream flavor profiles other than the matcha one. That was it. I mean, as the company's gotten bigger, we've thought much, much more sort of strategically and thoughtfully around what flavor profiles we want, and we're looking more at data, like what sells, what sells at Costco, what sells at Walmart, et cetera, et cetera. And another thing we learned is you don't really want to get creative on flavor. Like, people want what they want, and generally in bars it's chocolate and peanut butter. And it just, you could fight that, right? You could try to have a matcha flavor go ultra mainstream. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So you want to differentiate on other variables, not really generally on flavor profile.
So what were some of those other variables that you were trying to optimize on then?
I mean, the brain angle for sure. Our trademark IQBar, right? That's super different, and just the angle of brain and body nutrition, very different. But then, I mean, it's a whole basket of variables. Dietary friendliness, so clean label. We don't use weird stuff. We were keto compliant, and keto blew up, and that was like this awesome tailwind. We were paleo friendly, and so paleo people in the paleo diet could consume it. We're a plant-based protein bar, so now if you're vegan and you want protein, we're a great fit for you. And then price, like, honestly, price is such a overlooked variable. You have to be able to hit a really compelling price point to get true mass market appeal. And so how do we do all of this and price competitively? So it was a wide variety of things. It still is today. It's less of a, there are some brands, IQBar say, where it's like, okay, I get it. It's just simple ingredients. And that's great. We took a different path where we try and hook people in like 8 different ways. It's sort of like a diversified stock portfolio. Because if keto goes up and down, you're not screwed. You're not tethered to any one thing.
Yeah.
You can grow through ups and downs of trends.
Well, I mean, I love that strategy because on one hand, like the brain clarity, mental health thing, that's not going to be a trend, right? That's like a long-term thing that people want, and probably as they age, want more and more. So that's kind of this base level kind of market demand. And then the fact that you kind of checked all these other boxes, whether they're health trends or not, and you can appeal to all of those as paleo comes and goes in popularity, or keto comes and goes in popularity, or vegan comes and goes in popularity. It doesn't matter, right? You check all those boxes. So like you said, you're not going to live and die by any one particular health trend, because the core thing, the core value you're providing is something that all humans at some level desire, and combined with the fact that it's this really portable, really easy, accessible. So whether you're a busy business person or you're an athlete on the go, or you're not the type of person who's into food prep, just chuck this in your bag and eat it on your way to work or after a workout or something, is the convenience of it too is pretty brilliant, I think. So was all of that your strategy like right from the beginning, or what aspects of that do you think were kind of happy luck or fortuitous as you started to go?
It's tricky. Some stuff's luck, some stuff isn't. But if you're in business long enough and you're doing the right things long enough, you'll get lucky. It's just not really. It's not possible not to. No, I think it's honestly like data collection and iteration. So just try stuff. A lot of entrepreneurship is just trial and error. Like develop educated guesses based on data. Try something novel. Get a bunch of responses back. Evaluate that data. Iterate. Rinse and repeat. And in an ideal world, you're talking to other industry folks. You have a cadre of trusted industry folks along the way who you can bounce stuff off of. But no, it's just brute iteration. The key is you have to get better each time you iterate. Like a lot of people will get that data back and then they won't do anything, or they'll do the wrong thing. They'll interpret data the wrong way. You can get false negatives and positives all the time. Someone might say, hey, I don't like the XYZ about your product. And then someone else might say that. And a third person might say that. And you're like, damn, that's a pattern. We need to fundamentally change this product to make those 3 or 4 people happy. Little do you know that making that change then made 13 people unhappy because, that change you made flipped a switch for them in the wrong direction. So there is no action that has no consequence. Every action has a consequence. And so you just got to be very careful to consider all variables when you're iterating.
Yeah, I love that. It sounds very much like validated learning, which was talking to a group of guys this morning about the lean startup and Eric Ries, the book and the whole movement of the lean startup. And it's interesting, especially because in the consumer goods space, people who've heard of that book or kind of heard of that, they often miscategorize that as just a tech thing, right? Oh, that's for software companies or that's for tech companies. But the core applications are applicable in all types of businesses and not just even in pure startups, but in entrepreneurship, like even within huge product companies, when a Procter and Gamble or, someone's coming out with a new product, all of those same principles apply. Like you said, it's a lot of testing, a lot of validation, a lot of responding to the feedback that you get, interpreting the data correctly so that you can make the right choices. So I love that you guys were pretty conscientious of that from the beginning. So going back to that, you launched with the chocolate, the blueberry, the matcha. How did the matcha do? And was it kind of like a novelty thing, or did it like hold its own with the other options?
Well, we still have it today.
So it survived There's 7 years, I guess.
There you go.
Nice.
No, I mean,
where does it sit on your list of favorites?
I like it. It's not my favorite because I'm not a huge matcha consumer. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
You have to get outside your own predilections and preferences in consumer goods. A lot of people will be like, create a product for yourself. I think that's horrible advice. I think you can use that as inspiration, and V1 can be for yourself. But very quickly, you're going to get data, and you're going to have to micro adjust that thing 1,000 times to where the odds that it ends up being that original conception of, oh, I'm making this for myself is like 0%. So anyway, but that kind of ties in with the matcha thing. No, I mean, you have to know the role of certain SKUs. So like that will not be going into Costco. That will not be going into Walmart, but it might go into Sprouts or Whole Foods. There will be an e-com base of people who just love matcha and reliably subscribe to that SKU. It has value. It's a role player still to this day, but it will. You can't build a company on that SKU. Put it that way.
Yeah. But it plays a supporting role with that. It's an alternative flavor. It's interesting. There's a certain percentage of people who like it, and maybe don't. Even the people who like matcha, it's hardly ever like that's the only thing, right? It just gives them some variety, with the other stuff too.
Well, that's the other thing is people, what you learn in consumer goods, and really in particular in consumable consumer goods, is variety wins. Like, this would be an example. Fruit Lovers Variety Pack. Like, this will massively outsell each of its constituent parts. Why? Because people like variety. And there's such a thing as flavor fatigue. So there are things you can consume generally on the drink side daily, right? You could have the same coffee for 5 years every day. You don't get tired of it. You can drink the same whatever, carbonated water, flavored water, the same. But when you get into food, you get fatigued, right? Pretty quickly, right? So let's say you eat the same, I don't know, Caesar salad 7 days in a row. You're like, the 8th day, you're like, damn, I don't want to eat another Caesar salad. You get fatigued. This again. But if you're cycling through a Caesar salad and then a sandwich and then soup, well, you can come back to Caesar salad and you're like, yeah, I'll have Caesar salad again. So you got to be very thoughtful about assortment and variety in consumables.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. So to that point, so you launched with the 3, and did you sell them as a variety pack and like just separately so people could choose, or what was the original kind of combination on that?
Yeah. They can buy them individually or a variety pack. So some people will just be obsessed with lemon blueberry. Great, but buy 12 kind of lemon blueberry. Some people will never just buy that. They always just buy the variety. So the key is just give people the option and get them exposed to as many flavors as possible, right? Because if they like 4 out of 8 flavors, that's a win. Your odds of turning that customer are so much less than if they liked 1 flavor. Because then they're just gonna, again, fatigue will set in, and then you lose that customer.
Okay, so you launched those. Where was your mind going after that? Were you thinking, was the priority to create more flavors of bars, and how long did you stick with bars? Or were you thinking, ooh, I want to do some other stuff like the drink mixes, or when did you start thinking about branching out from bars, and how long did you just kind of stay committed to the bars and just do different flavors?
I think November of 21, we came out with the drink mix. So 3 and change years in. There's another thing that, as an entrepreneur, you're always like antsy and you want to do new fun stuff. So that played a role in wanting to be in multiple categories. I'd be lying if I said it didn't. And you always want to be solving the same more problems for the same consumer. You want to sell more stuff to the same person, because that's easier than selling the same thing to more people. Once you have someone in your ecosystem, upselling them is always preferential to finding new customers. So again, like, how many bars can you sell one person though? It helps if you have variety because they can cycle through flavors, but at some point I can only sell you so many bars, but I can sell you bars and hydration because they're totally non-cannibalizing and they're totally complementary. So eating one doesn't inhibit you from consuming the second and vice versa. And then same with coffee, right? Coffee doesn't cannibalize hydration and vice versa. So now you have 3 categories, none of which cannibalize the other, all of which are complementary. And so that was the theory behind it. There's a ton of other stuff, right? There's a long checklist of must be ship friendly, must be long shelf life, must be high gross margin, must be a large and growing category, must be coherent with the brand of brain and body nutrition. So it has to make sense under that umbrella. The label, cleanliness they all have to have the same dietary thumbs up, so to speak. But if all of those things were satisfied, then that's an interesting expansion. The only caveat there is you can't extend yourself too far. You can't spread yourself too thin. And so you don't want to make an operational monster that you can't harness. But the beauty of hydration and coffee is they're both powders. Like, we have the same manufacturer for both of those products. They're both stick pack products. So like this would be like a stick pack for hydration, and then, that would be a stick pack for coffee. So it's very similar, very similar. And so going from bars to hydration was a little tricky because you had to find a new co-packer, but then hydration and coffee was not tricky at all. same co-packer, same form factor, powder, same delivery mechanism, stick pack, So yeah, I don't know. It was part commercial interest and wanting to upsell people, hook people into more of an ecosystem. Part me just wanted to do more interesting, fun stuff.
So how many different flavors of bars did you have before you made that leap to go find a new co-packer and start, okay, now we're going to go into like the beverages?
I think we had 7. I mean, our bar count hasn't changed all that much. I think we had 7 flavors.
And you've been selling them for about 3 years?
Yeah.
And then you went to, was it coffee first or was it the hydration first?
Hydration.
And was the strategy there that there was a broader buyer, like broader market for hydration than coffee, or what made you pick?
No, no. I mean, the hydration or coffee is like one of the biggest markets in the world. I think for hydration, I don't know why we did that before coffee necessarily. I think it was because we thought we could be more different, and there was a moment in time, like Liquid IV had really blown up, and we could insert ourselves into a really growing category and be meaningfully different in that category. I think that's why we did it first, but we could have done coffee first and hydration. That would have been fine too. But yeah, it was just how, first of all, you have to educate yourself. It's like starting a new startup, right? A new product line is like a new startup. You have to learn the new market. How do people buy that thing and interact with that thing? What's the repeat purchase cycle time on average? How sticky are products in this category? How loyal are consumers in this category? What's the average gross margin in this category? Where does this work in brick and mortar and online? If so, what brick and mortar? Maybe it works really well at Costco, but it works terribly at Target. And by the way, all these things don't track from category to category. So like bars, you can sell really well in, let's say, Walmart, whereas powdered hydration just not a great category for Walmart. So you have to relearn all of it and re-educate yourself on all of it, each new category. So it's not for the faint of heart. I mean, it's a lot of work. But once you do it, again, you have that stock portfolio diversification effect, similar to the value propositions within any given product effect. You get that same diversification value, and then you could just, like I said, sell more stuff to the same person. So many people who eat bars also drink coffee, or also drink hydration, beverages.
One thing that I want to circle back to a little bit, because my mind has been thinking about this. I know we talked about it kind of quickly, but I don't want to under describe this or undersell this to like anyone who's thinking about, taking an idea like you had and turning it into an actual product. What was that, even with the bars at first, but even like also with the drinks, you found you had a couple of connections that introduced you to some manufacturers. Do you go to them and did you say, here's the thing I'm trying to accomplish, here's the end result I want? And did then they come back with like a lot of feedback about how to create a bar from that? Or how much trial and error was involved in like putting stuff together, tasting it, saying like, oh, that's terrible, we need to make this change? Like, talk us through that process. Like, how did it go from idea to like an actual legit tasty product?
Just the way you described it. So, I mean, different people do it differently. So you can go to a big product development firm, like Matson would be a big one. You can give them all the specs and they will make the product. They have food scientists. They'll do a zillion iterations. They'll try it. And then eventually they'll come to you with something. You try it, you give feedback, and you iterate. And then you get a product. You then take that product to a co-packer and you say, hey, I need you to make this. Maybe they say, hey, I need you to adjust this and that so it'll run on our machinery. But, Matson or whomever that product creation firm is, they'll be making it with all like the production side in mind. So, that's one way to do it. Another way is you have the idea and then you work hand in hand with a rep of the manufacturer and you iterate together. And then, that should, because you worked with them on it, it should run on their machinery, and you're all good. I mean, heck, you can go to the manufacturer and they'll do it for you and charge a fee. So they'll product develop for you. But then, maybe they own the IP, the intellectual property on it. So there's a zillion ways to do it. The way I do it is I come up with all the formulations, make it in we have a lab partner who will like make up samples, send them to me. I'll iterate with them and then send them instructions until we get to a good place. And then we'll get it to our manufacturer and they'll do a pilot run. And if it goes well, then it's good. But 10 different people will do it 10 different ways.
Okay. And so looking back on the ways that you've done it in the past, do you have any regrets about that? Like if you went back and did it, or have you changed drastically the way that you do it now compared to like the very first ones, or you just kind of like it worked really well right from the first time you did it?
Yeah, it's changed a lot. I did it all myself for a while. Now I have partners who can make up samples. I would have to carve out days and days, and I would literally do stuff in my kitchen for a long time. But now we have a lab partner, and I can just get them formulations, and they can make stuff and send it to me. So just it took a lot off my plate. But at that point in time, that was how we needed to do it. I allowed me to be close to the product and frankly save the money. And then, but yeah, it feels good to get the literal, sample creation process off my plate for sure.
Although, I mean, there's probably some catch-22 where it is fun, the creative part of like you're actually inventing the product, right? But then also you don't want to be, stuck in the kitchen for days at a time, like trial and error. You kind of come up with the idea and then have other people, run some tests for you and stuff. And that's maybe the mix of still being able to be involved in that creative process, but not have to do all the work anymore like you did in the beginning, right?
Totally.
Okay, so talk us through, Kickstarter launches. Like you said, you don't have enough money from a Kickstart to just launch a company from there necessarily with, consumer, especially with food. So then you raise some money, you formulate the manufacturing. What did your early sales and marketing look like? Did you go, was it just selling from your website at first? And how did you get attention? Or did you start approaching big, the stores first? Like, what was your sales and marketing strategy in the beginning?
E-com. So we sold on our website and ran ads. And then once we acquired customers, did email marketing and kind of all the standard blocking and tackling of selling a consumer good online. And then we got layered on an Amazon presence. Very quickly, Amazon started outpacing our website. And so we just got smart around Amazon advertising, honestly, to create a flywheel there where we could get, acquire people in a relatively cost-effective manner. And so, yeah, the first 9 months of the business was all online. Like I said, still today, most of the business is online. And what we learned was by being successful online, we started to get retail interest, brick and mortar retail interest. And so Kroger, randomly I got connected into someone at Kroger, and then they saw how well we were doing on Amazon, and then that helped us get into Kroger. And then once we got into Kroger, ran the same playbook that we also could say, oh, we're carrying Kroger. And so it just sort of snowballs. Starting online was really helpful because you could go to any given retailer and say, hey, I have 10,000 customers in your region. And I know that because they all buy from me on Amazon. So you do have like a symbiotic relationship between online and offline, and it greases the wheels for brick and mortar to have a thriving online business.
And kind of vice versa too. It's like this, like you said, it's a flywheel that's going where somebody might just stumble across your packaging in the store and then find out that they can also buy it online, so they can just keep buying it and buy it in larger quantities, or where they find one of your products in the store and then find out that you have other products as well, and then kind of get sucked into the other products, right? So that's cool. How did you make the decision to go into Amazon, and what were you thinking with respect to were you worried about, oh, okay, we're going to get a lot of exposure, but the margins and, they take a lot, they take a chunk. So how did you think about the trade-off of like going into Amazon and making that commitment? And how did that, I mean, obviously, I guess it sounds like it turned out really well, but how were you concerned about that? And how did you think about making that leap into Amazon?
I mean, you just create the P&L, and if it looks good, you do it, and if it doesn't, you don't. So we have a P&L for D2C,
Were the
and
margins really rough in the beginning?
consumer good margins are tight to begin with, but I mean, the margins are tight everywhere. Like D2C, it's not like it's not tight. Yeah, Amazon, you have a referral fee. They take 15% of most sales, but you fulfill really efficiently. Your fulfillment cost is actually really low. Whereas on your website, it's the opposite. There's no website fee, obviously, but it costs more to fulfill that item. And you can acquire a customer on Amazon, in most cases for us, we've learned cheaper. So your lifetime value to customer acquisition cost ratio can be better. So no, I mean, you just like anything, I mean, you should do that for any channel you're considering. Lay out a P&L, and if it's viable, do it. And then you're also just going to see the reality of it. You sell 10,000 units, and is this tracking? Are we actually seeing the profit we thought we would, et cetera, et cetera. And then also forecast forward, like I said, your gross margin is the worst it will ever be at first, and then it's the second worst, and then the third worst, and eventually you can drive efficiencies on the operational side that will track through to that Amazon P&L that maybe it looked terrible in the first couple months, but now you're producing so much volume that P&L looks a hell of a lot better. So you got to also have a believable and realistic ability to project forward cost efficiencies, and know how P&Ls will evolve.
Yeah, that makes sense. That mapping it out to the numbers of does the benefits in the cost of acquisition and the fulfillment outweigh the that trade-off on the margin, and if it pencils out, it sounds like it worked out really well for you guys. So, and do you sell all of your SKUs in Amazon, or was that also like you limited certain products? How did you think about that?
Most of them, yeah. We do keep a few for the website. Like we have this thing called the Ultimate Sampler, which is 7 bars and 4 hydration IQ Max hydration packs and 4 IQ Joe coffee packs. So it allows you to try like basically every flavor of every product line we have. We don't sell that on Amazon. Yeah, most SKUs, probably 90% we sell on Amazon.
As you started building your customer base, you started going into retail, what was your strategy for customer loyalty and long-term engagement? What tactics did you guys develop, and how have you created kind of an engaged, loyal customer base?
Yeah, you try and get people to subscribe, right? Because that's always better. Try and keep delivering great products. Have great customer service. Bend over backwards when people have issues, and then email marketing. Keep re-engaging people through not annoying but actually useful updates and sales, and things like that. We put out a newsletter. So that's another touch point we could have with consumers. That's kind of a cool newsletter. You can check it out on our website, actually. It's called IQ News. But yeah, I mean, nothing revolutionary there. Just keeping a regular email and SMS touch points with people and delivering great service.
So with a relatively small team, but a large and growing customer base, how do you guys do that high touch kind of quality customer service? What tools do you use, or do you have like just a handful of dedicated staff that can keep up with all the customer inquiries? How do you manage that?
We have a third party who knows us really well. We've been working with them for a long time. They know all our products. They've seen like every complaint that they could have, they've seen the most esoteric of questions they could ever get. And so, you work with the same partner for a long enough time, then it's like they've seen it all. Yeah, we semi-outsource it. They're kind of like employee, like the guy who manages our account. He's almost like an employee, but it's a third party.
So it keeps your kind of internal team pretty lean and mean, and it allows you to scale up or down, kind of outside the business. That's kind of smart, as long as you can trust the partner to like deliver really high quality service, because that impacts your brand, right? So that's kind of key. When in the retail, like when you're selling in stores, does all of that customer support still come to you guys directly, or do any of those stores provide kind of first level? Like I mean, I guess if a box is damaged or if something isn't good, do they reach out to the store first, or they always come to you guys first?
No, they reach out to the store, and then the store will trash it and give them a new one. We see it like in remittances, right? They pay us net of damages and things like that. But yeah, I mean, a store handles its own customer service.
So that kind of helps alleviate some of the volume there, probably. What portion of your revenue comes from retail now as opposed to e-commerce? Like what percentage wise, how does that split out?
I think it was basically 2/3. It was like 66% was e-com last year, and 1/3 was brick and mortar. But I think it'll be roughly maybe 55-45. Still e-com heavy this year, but closer to half and half.
Okay, so you see the retail presence growing. Is that expansion into more stores, or a combination of like more people being aware of it and buying it, and more locations as well?
Combo. More velocities in existing stores, and then also more locations.
And then long term, how do you motivate and reward your existing customers? Do you do like loyalty programs, or we talked about the discount? Is there like a VIP club? Is there a membership that like gets early access to products or gets to test products? Like what kind of community building things have you guys done besides the newsletter?
The subscribers, I guess, are the closest thing to a VIP. I mean, they can get early notification about things, and they get a big discount and all that. But frankly, we don't do anything beyond that, because we already price. It's like Walmart, everyday low price. Like the table stakes is give a really competitive price, deliver really high quality, have excellent customer service, give generous discounts to subscribers. Like we want everyone should kind of get like quote unquote a VIP experience. But no, we don't do, and we do referral bonuses and things like that. I think we use referral candy for that. So you can get whatever it is, $20 off if you refer someone. But no, that's kind of the long and short of it.
In the beginning, you said there wasn't any company, there wasn't a bar. It's partly what motivated you to start. That kind of focused on brain specifically, and then you kind of did brain and body, and that's kind of that's like your like the mantra now. What kind of competitors have popped up over the years, and how do you think about competition? Do you guys worry about that at all, or do you have more of the attitude that we don't care about competitors, we're just focused on doing what we do, making great products, and they can do what they do, and we're not worried about trying to worry or think about what they're doing?
The latter. But we don't have a competitor of meaningful size. We've had a couple sort of copycats emerge, but they're quite small. And frankly, it's okay if they get bigger. They're helping to build the category. So long as the category is building, it can support more people. We certainly want to be better than anyone else who's trying to do what we're doing, and I think we will be, and I think we are. So it's definitely spawned some sort of copycat type startups, but we're better priced, we have better products, and like we will win the category. I have no doubt in my mind of that. But it's not a bad thing. I mean, like frankly, if someone then spends a bunch of money, acquires the customer, brings the customer into the category, and we can then poach that customer, well, they just did education on our behalf, right? So I think people who go to sleep worrying about competitors I think it's mostly like not worth worrying about. At least it isn't for us.
It's a good way to look at a positive way, that they're kind of helping attract people to the general category. And then if you're got a great product and great service, then they eventually end up with you and then stay with you, right? For those same reasons. So that's pretty good. Looking back, what has been the hardest thing or things about doing what you've done and building a consumer product category from scratch and kind of bringing those ideas alive? What have been the toughest moments for you? What have been the biggest challenges?
People challenges are always very tough. You know, having to let certain people go, or even just building a team. It's so tough, right? Because there's usually right answers in most things. With people, there's not always obviously a right answer. So the human side of it is I think often the most challenging types of things I experience. I mean, product development's really, really, really hard. I've gotten a lot better at it, but it's still very hard. And, you know, especially if you're trying to do something unique and special. You know, for example, it's really hard to make a clean label, ultra low sugar product taste good. That's just a really hard food science challenge. And I'm not even a food scientist. And so it's like, okay, I have to solve that challenge. That takes years and years and years of trial and error and false starts. And so product is really tough. And then just like personal life, like your life will get subsumed by a startup. And so you got to make sure your house is in order. Can you withstand it personally? Can you work that many hours? Can you take on that much risk? Can you yada yada? Like, do you have resiliency yourself to get punched in the mouth for 10 years? You know, most people don't. Like, so, but even if you do, it's still tough. It's still tough. And like I said, as you scale, law of big numbers, your issues scale. Your issues per, let's say, 1,000 orders will decrease. That proportion will decrease, but the absolute number of issues will always keep going up, or at least probably keep going up. So you just have more problems that hit your desk. So you got to scale your systems and third parties and all that to address that, but it never gets easier.
To the point of like, you know, the pressures and all that, like the challenges on a personal level, what kind of personal support group have you had through this whole process? Like, you know, spouse or partner or close friends or family, like what support group did you have surrounding you, and how were you able to leverage that, or were you like just flying solo most of the time? Like, talk to us a little bit about that kind of external support group and what kind of an impact that's had on your success.
My wife actually works in the business, so she's the CMO and runs our online business. And it's just me and her. I mean, that is the support group.
Were you guys married before you even started it, or did you meet like during the process?
No, we met in college and then started dating, and I had my job out of college that was not this, and she had another job, and then I started this while we were dating, and then, you know, a couple of years and after I started this, we then got married, and she had worked for the business even before we got married. But so yeah, it's been a journey, but it is, I say this often, like working with your spouse is either the best thing that could ever happen to you or the worst thing. For me, it's the best for sure, because you're like streamlining all aspects of your life, and you can relate to each other intensely and all that. But certainly I'm sure 10 other couples who've tried that would be like, don't do this, you know, like, because whatever. So that's, I mean, but that is the support system, like me and her for each other. Pretty powerful.
That's awesome. So when you first came up with this idea, like, hey, I'm thinking about starting a business, I'm going to quit my job, go after this thing. I'm assuming based on what you just told us that she was like, yeah, let's do it 100%. Or was she like hesitant, like, or just all in supportive from day one?
All in supportive. No, she was never like, this is crazy. It was sort of like a wait and see, but if I believe in you, it's really a trust in the person, that the person is not going to do something silly, and the person will figure it out. Initial idea is whatever, right? That's going to evolve. But if the person trusts the other person, then they're going to be supportive. So that was definitely the case.
No, that's really cool. Well, congratulations on that. And it has been kind of a pattern in a lot of the founders that I've interviewed they had a spouse or a partner that was super supportive, believed in them most, even if they were, skeptical about the overall idea, but they're like, if anyone could do this, I believe you can do this. And so that seems to be kind of a pattern for success in having that person or persons, like close relationships that are people that can support you through the tough times. And then, like you said, it's either the best case or the worst case if you're working together. In your case, that's the best case because she knows what's going on, can empathize with the ups and downs, cares about it as much as you do. And like you said, you guys can kind of blend that work-life balance isn't as critical because you kind of can, like, your lives are kind of a blended, scenario anyway, which like I'm sure has some big advantages in being able to like just do whatever you need to do together to make the business be successful, right? Where do you go from here? What's the 5 years from now? What does IQBar look like? Are you going to be a 70-year-old gray-haired guy still running IQBar, or are you going to get snatched up by one of these huge, food companies that's probably been hovering over your shoulder now? What do you? I mean, maybe you can't reveal some of your secrets, but like, what from you? What's the ideal outcome, and what does the future look like?
Sell the business at some point when the moment's right. I won't be the 70-year-old guy running this. I'll be a 70-year-old guy running something, hopefully. But no,
he's got more ideas that you want to pursue.
Yeah, at some point you take something as far as you are the best person to run it. It rarely is the same person like the best person to start something, grow it through infancy, grow it through adolescence, grow it into maturity, and then run it thereafter. Like, each stage is so different, and like how many people can, and even if they can, want to be that guy or gal in all of those stages? Like, not many. Not me. Yep. So you want to keep going until you're like, all right, actually this would benefit from a much bigger partner for XYZ reasons. And like I think we're almost there, honestly. Like I think we can keep sprinting, but at some point in the not so distant future, we would definitely benefit from a bigger partner.
Do you still have all of your original investors, or have some of them already been able to realize some returns or an exit?
No one sold a single share. So everyone who was on the boat.
Okay. So they've been it for years now. So maybe some of them are like, hey, maybe it's, at some point in the near future, it'd be good to cash in on this success, right?
Yeah, but no one's actually said that. So they're super patient. I mean, it hasn't been that long, right? It's been 6 years. So usually these things are 5 to 7 years, sometimes more than 10 years, right? At year 8, 9, 10, would they say that? Probably, but no one said that yet. And frankly, I would be aligned with them on their timeline anyway, probably. And then there's like the market, right? Like there's the macro dynamics. Like you might be ready to take an action, and it just so happens that the market is like horrifically bad, right? And that just is what it is.
So in wrapping up here, are there any new product categories or stuff that you can tease or that you want to promote, or do we have to stay hush-hush about any of that kind of future stuff?
No new categories. I don't think we're going to go into a new category. I really like sleep. If I had more money and energy, and maybe we touch sleep, because I think it's a cool category and it fits within brain and body health and all that. But I just don't think it's worth it to degrade focus further. And our 3 categories, it's such big addressable markets. No, nothing to even tease. We'll have some cool limited edition products this year, for sure, within our 3 categories, but no new entire categories for us.
Okay. So maybe just some new exciting flavors and kind of riffing on some of those existing stuff is what people have to look forward to. That's cool. Okay. So website, social media, like where do you want people to go? What's your preference for how people find you, and how can customers support you?
Sure. Yeah. IQBar.com, IQBar.com is our website, at IQBar.
You guys I think you just promoted that new domain, right? Because was it Get IQBar or something?
Eat IQBar. And it still actually redirects to Eat IQBar because all our domain score value, or I don't even really know how the domain value thing works, but basically it
Yeah.
redirects to Eat IQBar. But because we now sell hydration and coffee, eat doesn't make all that much sense. So IQBar.com and at IQBar on social, and me, Will Nitze, Nitze, on LinkedIn if you want my daily musings. And yeah, you can find us at a store near you, on our store locator, on our website. And I think that's it.
Awesome. What do you have preferred socials? Or are you on like all the socials? Like, do you have a specific one that you prefer people to?
Instagram probably is our most active.
All right, Will, it's been amazing chatting with you. Thank you so much for putting that, call your shot kind of thing out there. It gave me an opportunity to kind of jump in there and invite you to come on the podcast. Really appreciate it. Love what you're doing. And we ordered some. We're going to try some out here at the office and, share them around. And I'm curious to see, my local stores here in Utah are probably Harmon's and Costco are kind of my two main. So did you say, are you guys in Costco?
Not in your Costco region. We are in Costco in other regions.
Do kind of a regional test before it kind of goes nationwide or something?
Yeah, kind of. It's a long story to explain it, but yeah, basically each region operates semi-independently, and so you kind of have to like stitch them all together to go national. But hopefully we'll be in your region this year at some point.
Okay.
Where do you get them?
I'll
Amazon?
look it up on the store locator. Yeah, I mean I think that's where we actually, or either we bought it straight from your website or maybe from Amazon, kind of like to get the first box after I connected with you, and then I wanted to see if it was in some of my local stores, so I'll do the store locator on your website and see if there's stuff close by. And so,
Cool.
pretty cool. Thanks, Will. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
This episode was brought to you by Awesome, AWSM. Awesome makes it possible for consumer brands to reward and motivate their customers with equity ownership. People that have even small amounts of ownership in a brand spend twice as much money per year, are loyal 3 times longer, and are twice as likely to refer their friends and family. Learn more at awesome.com, AWSM.com.